All right. Hello, everyone. So, welcome to another edition of Colourisma. I'm Shar. I'm the host here, and I am joined today by Angela Sasser. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Thanks for
Little
having
things, but
me.
hey, no problem. No problem. I was going to say 2020 here. You know what? Little things, I'll take it.
Yes, I'm so human starved right now that it's exciting to I actually got out of the day pajamas to come and dress up a little and
Yes.
have an interview. So it's really good to see a human face because I've we've been secluded
I know.
for since March. So
Oh wow. Yeah, it's been a minute now. I mean, I hear it's almost October. How did that how what even is time? I
I
don't
I
know.
don't I don't know. Time is a pond right now. That's what it is. But
Yeah, it
yeah,
really
so I'm
is.
really happy to be here to chat with you. This is awesome.
Absolutely. So, just anyone who's kind of watching who may not know your work, where can they find it, and where is like your shop, whether it's Etsy or through Patreon?
Oh yes, I should introduce myself. So yeah, again, Angela Sasser. I'm a painter in both traditional and digital, and I'm most well known for the Birthstone Goddesses series that I've been working on for the past few years. That is inspired by fashion, folklore, and Alphonse Mucha. And you can find my work at angelasasser.com. And also am on Patreon where you can get little sneak peeks into all the painting process and whatnot. And that's just patreon.com/Angela Sasser.
I
So
think I've
that's
been on
the
there
short
for
intro.
absolutely. Yeah, I've been on there for a while on your Patreon, and I just love those updates. They're super awesome.
I'm glad because sometimes I'm like, I'm overwhelming people with too much detail. Like, I just finished a
Nah,
website redesign series where I was talking about how I redesigned my website. And I'm like, oh no, it's too much art nerd info.
never, never. I love all of it. I can talk the theory, the emotional theory behind being an artist, and then switch over to marketing, and then switch over to taxes, and I find all of it very interesting. So
Awesome.
anything and everything you can share, I will take it.
That's definitely a mix that I am excited about as well. And because I'm also very passionate about art marketing. So I'm actually an arts administrator. I have a master's in arts admin. And
Oh, neat.
that was my whole passion was social media and evolving audiences for artists. So that's like a thing for me. I love it.
So would you say that kind of led you down the path of being an artist, or was that a like career kind of motivation for you?
You know, it's I was thinking about how to answer this question because I'm like, do they want the long story version or
Go
the
for
short
it.
story version?
Go for
Okay,
it. Whatever
so
you want.
for me, art came to me when I was young because I love to read. I loved reading stories, especially illustrated books. And I grew up. I spent some formative years in Germany because my family was a military family, army brat here.
Air
So
Force
we
here.
Hey, there you go. So
Hey.
we lived in Hanau, Germany, which is the hometown of the Brothers Grimm, and I just
Mm,
fell in love with all the stories there, the fairy tales, and to me that just began that love affair with fantasy and with art. Like I think I had the eureka moment of when I read the fairy tale book by Trina Shart Hyman.
mm.
She does a lot of fairy tale art that's very Rackham and Art Nouveau inspired. And when I saw her art, I was like very young. I was like, oh, somebody actually drew this art. Like I had that revelation
Yeah,
that there's a human
right.
responsible for this.
It didn't just
So
magically appear on the page.
right, yeah, I think when you're young, that you eventually have that revelation that this is something you can create and maybe even get paid for.
Exactly.
Stories and living in such a magical place like Germany. Like there are so many cool fairy tale castles there. Like I spent some time in Neuschwanstein. Hopefully I said that
Mm.
right. But it's like the fairy tale castle over there that is so lovely. And that just really got my imagination going. So yeah, all that traveling and reading. And well, how
Awesome.
arts admin comes into this is that I actually had trouble trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Because once I got to college years, I was like, I love to read, I love to write, I love to draw. So how do I make money also? So I was trying to fit myself into this box where I also wanted to be a writer, but also an artist and create books and whatnot, but also know how to sell things. So I ended up wandering around from double majoring in English and art and minoring in business. And eventually arts admin seemed like, the unification of all of that. So yeah, a lot of years in college trying to find myself and figure out if I could become that business person, artist, writer, illustrator. And
meshing it all together.
Yeah, that's been one of the most exciting things, but also the most challenging things, because I've had a lot of time just trying to figure myself out and where I want to go in the future. And
you
lots
do
of art
kind
styles.
Yes, I was just about, that's where I was going. I was going to say, you do kind of a lot of different things too, which I totally relate to. If I don't have 60 million projects going at once, then it's not me. So.
Oh yeah, I think I've got my project list planned out from a little old lady ready for retirement. Well, I won't even be done then. But
Exactly.
that's another thing. If you guys do end up going to angelasasser.com, there's like different portals that lead to my different art styles, because I do dark fantasy, I do art nouveau, I also am a leather crafter, but that's kind of like my hobby away from the professional stuff.
Yeah.
And I also write articles on art marketing and social media. So
do you find it kind of challenging at all to juggle all of the like marketing needs for each of these like niches, and trying to work them all into a week, or promote them all evenly?
Oh my gosh, yes, that's been another thing that's it's been another thing that's been one of the biggest challenges of my multifaceted career, because at the beginning I was like, I'm young, I got energy, I don't need sleep, I can do it. I tried to do it all. I actually had leather crafting as a big part of my business for a while. So I was trying to promote Angelic Artisan and my paintings and Patreon. At one point, they all had separate Patreons, and I was trying to manage them.
Oh, wow.
And that was a mistake. I'm going to tell y'all, managing multiple Patreons is difficult once you get up to about 3 of them. So don't do that to
max.
yourself.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have 2, but that's it. That's all I can deal with.
Yeah, I had 3 because I thought I'll have something for the art advice stuff, and where I shared like stock art, and then I'll have my artisan crafts where I share artisan tutorials, and then my paintings. And I thought I could do it, but sometimes one of the biggest skills we gotta learn is that you can't do everything, and sometimes you have to like choose the right time. Like right now, the way I'm balancing everything is that I have let the artisan crafts be a hobby. I do it when I feel like it. I'm not actually marketing that heavily anymore. Sometimes I'll pay for ads during, this spooky time where people are buying masks, but I'm just letting that be a hobby and not trying to be like serious post every day. But I've chosen like a main project, which is my birthstone goddesses right now. Like that's the main thing I'm doing, the main place I'm going to put all my social media effort into. So for me, it's going to rotate. Like once I finish the birthstone goddesses, then I'll move on to the next project. I don't try to do all of it anymore. Like I still want to do the art marketing articles, but those are going to have to be sort of downgraded to a side project that doesn't get as much attention as my painting. So it's about balance.
That could be supplementary to the paintings. Like maybe once or twice a month you can do an article like that. And even if you get into like a whole entire thing where you just like go on a tangent and just do like 5, you can always space them out throughout the months as well.
That's exactly how I managed to balance that in the past with it's called the Muses Library, which is where I like to post about inspiration and reviews for artists, and also the advice articles. And that I have planned for like 1 or 2 articles a month. And eventually I'll get back to doing that. it's kind of taken us, everything's kind of taken a side seat right now because 2020 has been so weird. And I've just got done with 4 Kickstarters, so I'm like, I need a break.
Yeah, a break is well earned at this point. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, as you can tell, chronic workaholic.
I mean, we kind of fall into that just by being like self-employed or having, you know, being the whole entire person who has to run everything about our business. It's hard to just like, unless you're just the type A personality that just is like very schedule focused, and you can be like, from 9 to 10 a.m. I am just doing marketing, and then emails from 10 to 11, and then I can do I'm not that person. So
No, I try to be that person. I try to make schedules for myself, but as soon as there's a deadline and things start getting out of control, I'm up till like 2 a.m. and trying to catch up with everything. But I try. I think it is important to have that routine so you can just mess it up later, but at least you're trying, you know. You gotta, it's important, I think, when you're have so much to do on your own.
Yeah.
So you don't get overwhelmed. Yeah. So
I know for me, it helps to kind of have like a posting schedule, and then my days and week is kind of around that posting schedule. So like maybe like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so I know that Tuesday I'll spend some time preparing for Wednesday's post or whatnot. So it kind of almost naturally falls into some kind of schedule without having to try too hard. I think work with your own self. Like if you're not a morning person, don't try to make yourself be a morning person, especially if you're a full-time artist. Like you don't have to follow the corporate grind. Like you can really actually just follow your natural circadian rhythm, which not everybody is, you know, the super daylight person.
I am definitely not a super daylight morning person. I am night person for sure. And I tend to like get up a little later in the morning, work, take off, spend a few hours with my husband, and then go back to work at night. So I am a night owl. I work at the night.
Yes.
So that's something new I've started trying, because before, you know, I was raised with the 8 a.m. or actually no, 6 a.m. for family.
Wow.
But so that's what they like, because that's very business, you know, that's the business world for them.
Right.
But it's not me. I'm just not a morning person. I figure as long as I have the free will, I can, you know, get up a little later.
Exactly. You kind of went into it a little bit earlier, but like what was one of your first meaningful experiences with art?
I'd have to say it's definitely exploring a lot of the places in Europe that I was at as a child. Like again, Neuschwanstein has so much fairy tale mood to it. Like I remember walking up the really steep stairs and peering out over this picturesque countryside that there was no safety rails back then. And there was like a little carnival going on top of it. It was just like being in a fairy tale. I loved it. And we also went to a lot of like art museums there, and in Holland as well. And I got to see like the fields of tulips and whatnot. It's just fairy tale country. I can tell I miss Europe a lot, and I need to go back sometime. But for me, again, it was just being in that country and the nature around. The only other place I've been that affected me like that was probably Colorado. So like, I guess I'm very affected by nature and also being around that architecture.
What?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ramble about books. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just gonna ask, as far as how long were you in Germany for?
Only 2 years, but those are some formative 2 years. I really loved it there.
It sounds like it. I lived in Europe for a couple of years too, and
where did you live?
I was based out in Norway, in Oslo. So that kind of region, definitely more fjordy. But yeah, it's definitely really pretty out there. Somehow they seem to, I feel like, incorporate nature a little bit more into the cityscape, and they're not so quick to just bulldoze down everything. And kind of turn it all into a concrete jungle. Like I feel like there's a little, just at least, especially probably as when you were there as a kid, especially. But
at least where we lived, I feel like there you could feel that history. And there, I remember where we lived, there was like a statue of the Little Mermaid in the bay, like near the area that we were, and it's just really magical.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing for me again was lots of reading mythology books, fairy tales. Seeing the images and reading all these stories was really formative to me as an artist as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Books,
nothing,
nature,
all that good stuff. I was going to say nothing like, casually walking past a 1,000-year-old church, just hanging out there at the corner.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I love it.
Did you want to go into what you're going to talk about with the books?
I think I was just going to talk about how much of a book nerd I was. Like, I spent, since I was a military kid, which you know the drill, every 2 years we moved. So I found a lot of solace just hiding out in libraries and reading. There was this mythology series that was all about the monsters. And so
nice.
each of the monsters got their backstories in this series of books. So I just read those books religiously. And scariest stories ever told.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. So for me, it was all just book illustration was big for me. And eventually comic books as well. I'm a big comic book nerd. I
was going to say, you're among friends here. Hello. Giant nerd here. So no shame. I was huge into any animal books. So anything with an animal on it. I had all of the like unicorn books, all the unicorn fantasy books, all of that. So.
Oh yeah, me too. I would say my unicorn phase was just a phase, but I still really love unicorns. I was writing and drawing my own books to keep my lonely self busy back then as well. So I've written a couple of unicorn epics and various things like that. One day I will find them in my parents' house and share them. So that's what
I was going to say. You should come back. You should come back to them, and that'll be a new project down the line.
Oh gosh, just added to the long list, right? Like, I actually would love to take some of my childhood masterpieces and redraw them and rewrite them. Like, that's my future, actually, is I want to do more art and writing because it's so formative for me. But I've been kind of not stuck, but like I've been following this plan where I wanted to create work for my own IP and have that be sort of a passive income while I'm working on these things that are going to be slower. So the Birthstone Goddesses were like a way I could have prints, calendars. I've gotten into marketing stuff now, but hopefully the tangent is okay.
Oh, absolutely. Tangent away. I don't mind at all.
So like art and writing is the future. And this past 5 years have been about creating a passive income for myself. So it's a little backwards.
I mean, whatever works. Are you finding when you're kind of working toward a plan and all that kind of thing, are you focusing on having a product to sell? Is that kind of the motivating like guidance for you as far as like these projects?
So for the Birthstone Goddesses, the way this came about was that I thought about something that, the things that I really loved: fashion, folklore, Art Nouveau. And I thought, okay, I really enjoy doing this stuff. It's appealing to a lot of people. And I can make several fun products from it. Like birthstones are so collectible and they're perfect for a calendar. And they're kind of evergreen too. They're not tied to any kind of like trend per se, or at least I think Art Nouveau is pretty evergreen.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So
definitely.
I did think of the products, but I also thought about like what I would enjoy in creating these products as well. So it's both. Because I don't want to be like, go after that money and don't, prize your own vision.
Right.
But if you can have something that has both, then
a balance.
Yes, I'm all for that balance. And but I will say that I'm because I've been working on it for years now, I'm like a little burnt out on it. And that's
Okay.
been a challenge I've faced, because it was only supposed to take 2 years. We're
Oh,
on
wow.
5 years. So,
Yeah.
but this is going to happen. I think whenever you have a long-term project, it's always going to take longer than you think it will. And, you know, life happens. For us, it was my husband being diagnosed with cancer. And we're the same age. We're in our 30 somethings.
Right.
So this was an unexpected thing that for us to deal with. So
Exactly. Yeah.
you know, you have to slow down sometimes, but you know,
Priorities for sure.
yeah.
Everything can't just be, you know, there's just, you get a whole new perspective when stuff like that happens. You can't ignore it, and you have to pretty much reprioritize your whole entire life to be able to adjust. So it's totally understandable.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk about my husband too, who is awesome and amazing. And before I went into this career, just a little relationship advice for those who were artists with partners who are thinking about working from home with a partner who's the major breadwinner. I just think it is important to mention that kind of support system that I have,
Right.
because my husband is the major breadwinner, but we also sat and agreed for that to be how the balance was in our household.
Right.
And I think that's important, that you're on the same team. You both know what to expect, who's going to handle what chore. And that was difficult for me to get used to, because I came from a very business-oriented family / background. And it was like, if I am not making all the money, then, you know, I'm not doing something right.
Right.
So it took a mental adjustment to be like, it's cool if my husband is paying the most of the bills while I work on this project, because I'm making an investment in my long-term project. So that was my mindset going into the Birthstone Goddesses, was I'm doing this for us, and I am, you know, I'm going to make it happen.
Right.
And it's okay not being the main breadwinner.
That's and having hard. A support network is okay. And I think that's really important too, to just like acknowledge, like, if you do have a support network, like, try to make the most of it in whatever form that looks like for you. But it sounds like that's what you're doing. You are able to make the most out of it. So that's really awesome.
Oh, yes. I'm so grateful for Kevin's help. And he's gotten me past a lot of that mental anguish of, oh my gosh, I'm not making enough money as an artist, and that whole anguish of defining my worth as a person based on what money I could make. And that will just kill your creativity if you obsess over it too much. So
it's not great. It's not great.
Do not recommend.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Do not recommend.
No. No. So but you know, we're doing a lot better now. Kevin just had his last screening. He's all clear. We're just, you know, we've been dealing with this for the past 2 years. And it's been some of the most difficult times, because I was running Kickstarters at the same time. It's not a fun stress.
It's a lot of juggling.
But you know, we made it. Woo!
Yes.
We made it.
That's the important thing. I know, of all years to be able to say there's a win. I mean, I say take it.
Yeah, and I just have to say how odd 2020 has been. And I know I'm probably not alone with a lot of other artists who've been at home and maybe cut off from conventions, because I don't know about you guys, but all of mine were canceled. And just having to redo our whole plan, because this was the year we had invested in equipment, and we were going to go and like, because Kevin is also my booth beard. So
I love that.
We were a team. He helps me at conventions. So we were ready to take on the world, but then no cons.
None. So I was going to do the same. I was going to be like, I haven't been going to cons because I haven't had like enough of a financial support network to be able to travel. And I was going to start, like, I was like, you know what, let's start small. 2020 will be my year, said everyone ever. And and I'll just do the local cons. You know, there's a bunch here in North Carolina. So I was like, I'll just do, you know, some local stuff. And, you know, I won't have to worry about, you know, hotels or whatnot. And yeah, and so much for that.
Yeah,
So
I actually
it's a
work
challenge.
mostly local as well, because it
Okay.
is expensive to pay for a hotel somewhere and to drive or to
Mm-hmm.
get plane tickets, and especially if you have a big booth full of stuff. So
Absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
not quite
Yeah.
that tier of traveling artist yet, but working towards it.
That's all why I actually invested in the RV. It doesn't currently run right now, but if it were, the whole plan was to take it to different conventions, sleep in my own bed, all that kind of stuff. Come to find out, I looked into the logistics of taking it to IlixCon, and there's no like RV parking within like I would say 10 to 20 minutes away, which isn't terrible, but like if this is my main vehicle that I'm taking up there.
Yeah, you'd have to get like an Uber or a shuttle or
Right.
something.
Or I'd have to like tow my other car. Like it would be weird. So I didn't look into that side of things before I made this whole entire project happen. So that's my little advice is like plan all the way through. If you have like some elaborate plan, which I don't mind the whole RV lifestyle anyway, but if you do have an elaborate plan like that, like definitely look into like if you were to take it to different conventions, see about parking, see about like how would you actually plan the whole thing out from beginning to end and see how that would work. Because I, even without having the RV, I could have planned ahead enough to like Google Maps RV parks around that area and everything. So good to know.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's been my lesson for the past few years, is that you, again, when you're doing anything, you don't understand how all the miniature tasks that go into it or all the elements of it until after you try it, and then it's like, oh, you will also have to answer support emails and also do a lot of product proofing, and also it's just a lot of stuff you can't plan sometimes. So big
Writing
lesson,
newsletters,
plan for everything.
Yeah. And you'll still miss stuff, but the more you try to plan for, the better off you'll be, for sure.
Or give yourself wiggle room to learn. That's probably a better advice, because yeah. But as far as no conventions, I've just been here redesigning my websites and trying to get my website presence like as polished as possible, because it feels like that's going to be, especially for us with a medically vulnerable husband, that we're going to be online only for a long time. So redesign the website, updating
just get that
shop. Yeah. Are you doing that too? Are you working on getting all that web stuff?
I really should be. That's why I'm kind of asking these questions about like, so you're focusing on products now. Okay. I'm keeping that in mind, because for me, what I'm doing is I'm doing an online comic. The historically worst way to make money as an artist in the world. But I see a lot of people who are very successful at it. And a lot of what they're doing is supplementing their comic with merch. And so I'm like, right now, stickers are huge. Like I've been paying attention to the like pin versus sticker trend, and like pins are out, stickers are in, everyone. You heard it here first. But yeah,
stickers
so
are super cheap and like
they
easy
are,
to
yeah.
make. So
you can get high quality ones for not very much, $20, $30, and you get like 50 to 100 of them, and you can I did look into making them myself, but that is like a whole other financial ball game. That's like an investment of somewhere between $500 and $700. And I was like, I'm not ready for that yet. Let's see if I can even sell any stickers. I've been doing Redbubble stickers a little bit, and I was thinking about just going that route to see if I really tried to incorporate it into my whole entire business plan and marketing plan, and they were doing so well, then maybe I would invest in the time and energy of getting them sent to myself and then sending them out again. But there's sometimes that print on demand stuff is just too hard to beat. With my small space, it's not very practical for me to, have like 1,000 books in my house car. So
I've got like a warehouse of coloring books in the other room for the Birthstone Goddesses. But it reminds me of something I wanted to plug, which part of my business structure is the same way. I can't house a lot of stuff in here. It's just really annoying. I don't like seeing it. It's like, why are you there? You should be sold. I hate
Yeah,
seeing
you
you
should be
here.
you should be being enjoyed right now. I'm not enjoying you. You need to go away and bring someone joy. Yeah.
So I actually went and upgraded my whole shop to integrate with Printful, which is a
Okay.
service that you upload your art to, and
Mm-hmm.
they will produce prints for you, t-shirts, all sorts of other products, and ship it for you. You can even include a little bit of branding in the packages.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even send them merch to warehouse for you. So they'll pick it and
Oh,
ship it.
okay.
It's a really cool
Cool.
service. It is
And
cut down
that's
on
through
it's
Shopify?
printful.com. Oh, it uses Shopify, Squarespace,
Oh,
WordPress. It's
cool.
like all the major things.
Nice.
So I switched to that, even though I have an Epson printer here.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the butt. Pain in the butt printing the proofs, and also I
Yeah.
don't feel like I get enough sales to justify keeping all the stock here if I don't have conventions.
Right.
I used
Right.
to keep it here only just for in-person events, but now it's like people don't
Yeah.
mind getting an unsigned print. And
Mm-hmm.
the cool thing about
Charge more for those sign prints.
yes, that's exactly what I do is that
Yeah.
Printful will integrate with my shop. So where people can get an unsigned print, but in the same
Mm-hmm.
listing, there's a variation for like a fancy signed giclée. So
Ah,
you can have both in the same listing and still have it fulfilled with Printful.
that's
So,
very cool.
oh, I see in the chat there is
Yeah, we got Christy and Mitra here, and Mitra has a question. I'm gonna bring it up onto the screen here.
sure.
Show that question. So if there's time, which I think we have time,
Sure.
could you talk very briefly about your experience making a coloring book? And I've made a coloring book, and have you made one or have you made multiples now?
I made one with plans to
Okay.
do more in the future once I can get all the material gathered. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was another Kickstarter for me. I funded mine with Kickstarter. Did you do yours on Kickstarter or did
I
you?
did, yeah. It's actually been an embarrassingly long time ago now. My one and only Kickstarter was 5 years ago, so I really need to start structuring another one, which I have totally coloring book related ideas for. But yeah, I definitely want to hear more about your project.
So for my project, it was basically taking all the line art I had produced from the Birthstone Goddesses and putting it together in a coloring book. And for me, what I did is that um, I worked at 600 DPI for most of the ones that were digital, and the other ones I just scanned the ink work in at 600 DPI.
Mm-hmm.
And I printed them with a local company because I found that with a local company, I could just walk in there. Back when that was a thing that I felt comfortable doing, I could walk in there and check the proofs and whatnot, and not have to wait weeks between communication and proofing with a Chinese printer. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is generally I would get a Chinese printer, but I like working local because it's faster, and they were willing to work with me and budget with me. And I've actually written up an article on my Patreon about everything I did to promote my coloring book Kickstarter, and it's called
Mm-hmm.
Postmortem Kickstarter. I do believe it's locked to patrons only, but like $1 will get you access to that. But I talk about all the ways that I marketed with Facebook ads and all the things I did, like build a landing page to get people into my mailing list in order to get them to be there for the launch. So the biggest piece of advice, I guess, is always have a hype period. Don't just spring the Kickstarter on people.
Yeah,
You gotta hype it up. You gotta build
right.
suspense.
The ramp. It's like the Kickstarter needs to be the ramp. Like if you're a biker coming up off of a big jump, the Kickstarter is the leap. But you can't just start with the leap. You have to build your way up for sure.
Oh, and one thing that was super helpful for me in making, like actually putting together the book was PrintNinja's website has a guide on how to put together files. Like they have printing guidelines for how to put together your files in Photoshop or InDesign and whatnot. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
recommend looking at PrintNinja's resource section on their website if you're
Yeah.
wanting the nitty-gritty of putting together a coloring book.
Mm-hmm. The
But
way I did it was actually through the now defunct Amazon print service. It's
Oh,
not defunct, but it's
CreateSpace, right? It's Kindle
yeah, it was
publishing.
right, right. It was CreateSpace. I've looked into Kindle publishing and I can't figure it out. It's not as easy to use, I think, as CreateSpace was. So I'd have to re-look at it again. But I did all the images. It was like a cute animal coloring book, and I did all the images. I think there was about 30, and I think I correlated it with Inktober, so it kind of worked
Nice.
out. And then I took all the images, not scanned them in exactly. I don't remember. I digitized them and then went ahead and assembled it all together into a PDF. And then went and just uploaded the PDF to the CreateSpace. And I was able to ship for the Kickstarter. I knew exactly how many people wanted books, so I shipped them to myself and then I shipped them out again. Because you get like the at cost discount for
Right.
as the creator to buy the book. So it worked out pretty good. I think I still have one or two lying around from that,
Nice.
but it wasn't such a huge expense. I think the Kickstarter for me, and I think I had a $500 goal at the time and I got like 1,000. So
Nice.
it was good to know, like, okay, I only need to buy this much. And I could keep calculating as the Kickstarter went on. I could keep calculating, okay, so now that I'll need this many books and that'll cost this much. So I could keep track of everything. So like the end cost didn't get away from me, which I think is really easy to do in Kickstarters. It's nice when they do well, but then like it costs more, shipping costs more. So
Yes.
everything kind of builds exponentially, as it were. So
I cheated and used one of those calculator spreadsheets that tell you what goal to raise. They're
nice.
really handy. So definitely recommend those too. That's also linked in that same article I mentioned earlier.
Okay. Cool.
What was I going to say about the coloring book? I chose not to use CreateSpace, even though I think that's really convenient. But I wanted like what is it called? The perforation, so people could tear them out. I wanted gold embossing. It was just stuff they couldn't quite do. I wanted 70-pound paper. So because I had such specialized needs for it, that's why I chose to go with a local printer. But CreateSpace is convenient, especially in that.
If you just want something out there in the universe, that's definitely just like a starter way to go. And I don't know that there's a lot of people that really talk about that method. A lot of people go with like a custom printer, but there is the print on demand option, and it's not a very customizable option, but it is a nice option. It's certainly on par with the quality of the ones that you would get at Michael's or, you know, the little kids coloring books. It's a little, I'd say, a step above that. So
yeah.
Just
the other
know
thing,
what it is.
Yes. Just know what kind of paper quality you're getting, because that's super important to coloring book fans. Like the serious ones are like, I better be able to paint on this, and it needs to have like, you
needs to be watercolor paper.
Right. And the other thing I do, because I have the stock here, I've also signed up with Amazon Advantage and have been testing that this year. And this is like the thing that Amazon, I feel like they don't talk about it a lot. And what it is that basically when you're an indie publisher, like I am an indie publisher because of this coloring book, I was able to sign up as a vendor with them after getting an ISBN for my book. And now I can I ship my books to Amazon Advantage and they sell them for me on Amazon. So it's pretty cool. You know, it's a way to use that network that Amazon has to get the books out while still having printing quality that you control. It's just a lot of work when you're a one-person biz, because that means when I get orders, I have to sit there and pick them and ship them. So
you reminded me of the fact that with and I feel bad because this is 5-year-old information and I don't know if it's currently relevant, but CreateSpace also allowed for the ISBN to be packaged in, so there's no extra cost for it. So my book has an ISBN and it's being sold on Amazon right now. I don't know that I've sold. yeah, so I don't think I've sold a lot of them, but it is possible to buy it on there. And it is nice to just have that, because I think ISBNs, you can't just buy one, right? Like you have to buy like a pack of them or something.
Yes, you have to buy a pack of 10, which I
Yeah.
went ahead and got since I'm planning to do more books in the future. And you can slot those into I think you can slot those into an Amazon entry if you work with Kindle publishing and you already have your ISBN, you can put one in. I think I haven't tried it myself
I
yet.
know. I haven't messed with this in a while, but yeah.
But I bought 10 because I'm probably, if I do an ebook or other books, then I could have, because a physical book and an ebook have to have separate ISBNs.
Oh,
So I
good to
figured
know.
I'll probably go through these eventually throughout my career.
Yeah.
So I got
Yeah.
3 more coloring books planned. Yay for that detail obsession. It is equaled line art I can put for coloring books. So,
and it's not super unreasonable price-wise for the ISBNs, right? For that pack of 10. I can't recall what I heard it before on a different,
it's pretty
like,
reasonable.
podcast.
Like a couple hundred.
It's not
maybe?
$10. Yeah, it's not like, I wanted to say 50, but I could be totally off. I feel like it's like between 50 and 100, or am I totally off?
I want to say it's $100 something, but my brain doesn't remember numbers very well, so I think it's about that. But I didn't find it to be unreasonable for 10 of them that I could use for many books in the future. So
right, but again, if you're out of a say, like for my Kickstarter, $1,000 Kickstarter, a couple $100 is going to eat up a huge amount. So again, you got to just kind of like do what you can, and for the scale of the thing, the best way to go for my project was to do like a print on demand type thing. So
yes, and that's a good thing to ramp up with too. Like if you want to start small and not have to deal with all the other crap that comes with these advanced publishing things. Because that's another thing that I've been trying this year was the Amazon Advantage, and it is, again, lots of little things you don't plan for, like, oh, now I have to be in charge of those orders each week, which I'm realizing that eventually, once I get big enough, I will probably have to hire help. But right now I'm just small enough to where I can't justify the expense just yet, but we'll eventually. But yes.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the shift from just being a solo entrepreneur to having a small team of either part-time or sometimes even eventually full-time helpers. And it would be definitely interesting in the future if you go that route, to have you back on the show and just like kind of discuss, because I find that fascinating, because
I have leveled up.
Yes, and I sit here and I'm thinking to myself, like, I'll never be that person. I'll never have like a help or whatever. And just running Colourisma, and then also trying to run the comic, and then also, I'm like, you know what? If I had somebody who is a marketer, if I had somebody who just did all my social media posts for me and just assembled them together and posted them, and all I have to do is like worry about the art and maybe the copy on the social media posts. Like, I don't mind still writing the actual words. It always makes me feel some kind of way when you see a brand and they're talking on social media and you're like, is that you, or is that Sally who is your helper? So I feel like you got to have some authenticity and still have your voice in it, but having help assembling all together would be super handy.
Wouldn't that be so great? I see the people who've gotten that big, and I'm like, oh, that must be so nice. Because I also manage the YouTube, which is so neglected. I run YouTube as well, and that is also something I want to do more of in the future. More painting videos and art reviews and stuff. But it's not enough of me to go around for this. So
I totally understand
video editing.
that, for sure.
I hate it. Video editing takes so much time.
I say for that, just as a tip for my own videos, no, I'm not wildly successful. I think I'm about to break double digits on my last video, meaning 10 views. But just for the editing side, to make me kind of not hate it so much, I use, not sure if you're Mac or PC, but I'm on a Mac and I use ScreenFlow, and any kind of video editor can do this. But I just take the whole entire shot of my of my process. I either record the screen or I'll record me painting, and I'll just record all of it, right? And then I usually like 10-minute videos. There's a lot of information about why 10-minute videos are pretty good on YouTube. And squish all of that footage into 10 minutes and then just come up with something to talk about. And then I talk over the footage for 10 minutes. And then it's just literally just clipping out all the ums and uhs and then kind of cramming it within that 10-minute window, 10, 12-minute window. And I find that process to take maybe a couple of hours. Once the long part is making sure you press record each time when you're working. But yeah, even if you miss a little bit of footage, and sometimes you don't even have to go the super fast time lapse. Sometimes, especially if you're painting traditionally, people really like to see the actual time it takes to do the strokes, and then you move to a different clip of a different scene. So then you can just clip different segments of your painting together. I don't know. I find once you have a process for it, it kind of brings a little more joy into it. So it makes it more interesting again.
I'll have to see if ScreenFlow is on the PC as well. Mainly PC.
I don't think so, but there's way more stuff for the PC than there is for the Mac. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I use Camtasia Studio, which I love everything about it, except that it won't take all of your footage and automatically, you can't say, I need this to be 10 minutes long, make the speed of the clips match that 10-minute segment. You have to sit there playing with the speed of the clip speed to get it to shrink, and it's kind of unintuitive.
This one has, double check on here. Don't take my word for it, because I haven't looked into the compatibility. But I don't think ScreenFlow is PC, but they could have done a PC version by now. But they have so you have the full clip, and then they have a way to drag the clip to where you want, and then you can actually, well, on the Mac anyway, it's I think Command and then press. But anyway, the point being is that you can just see the whole timeline, see the 10 minutes, and then just kind of shuffle the clips pretty easily. So I don't know if it's
something that automatically changed the clips
for
me. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, just grab them and then say do 10 minutes. Just evenly divide it into 10 minutes.
Because I tend to do take my painting footage and then just voice over separately, because I don't like to talk while I'm painting, because brain power is on the painting. So
exactly,
I tend to record that separately. But I will say I'm excited about a YouTube thing I'm about to try. So I'm going to ramble about that for a minute. So with YouTube, let me start over. With October, I'm doing an art challenge that is inspired by a tabletop RPG setting that I love called Exalted. And it's all epic demigods and very Eastern influence type of imagery. And so for each topic on the list that I'm doing, I'm going to make one YouTube video of each topic talking about the characters and showing the time lapse of the process and stuff. So that's 30 videos.
Wow. Nice.
But, hey, it'll be released eventually. I'm just working at my own pace with this, but I'm excited to see if doing a series like that will get people interested in the characters and the process, and coming back in to see what is the next topic going to be like. And so we'll see.
I think series on YouTube's are a good idea, and a definitely good way to go about it.
And I should say that October is the first month I've had where I've just said, after doing all these Kickstarters and whatnot, I was like, October is mine. I'm just working on personal projects, because we've had a hellish few years, and I need to take care of myself. So I'm taking a break from the Birthstone Goddesses. I love my children, but I need some time away from them.
Right.
To
something different.
Project.
Spruce it up a little mentally. I
really do believe that, especially when you're experimental, multi-style person, you can't for me anyways, I can't do the same thing. I don't even know how I did it for 5 years, other than that I did different styles for different sets. So I do believe that taking a break is going to mean when I return to the project, I'm going to be better and feel better about it.
Yeah, renewed and refreshed and ready to take it on again.
Yes. So I've definitely learned that when I force myself to, when I don't listen to the signs of burnout, I really kill my urge to draw. And that's kind of been my most recent challenge from the past few months, just trying to get through these Kickstarters, which I keep coming back to them because it was such an ordeal. Like they kept getting delayed because of COVID, and that was just a lot of challenges that I wasn't expecting. But
were they run by you or?
Yeah, they were all run by me, and there was a lot of manufacturing delays, which is to be expected. I mean, it's a global pandemic, but it's just a lot of like making sure people knew that there's nothing I can do about it, and trying to explain delays. And thankfully I had wonderful backers, but you put more guilt and stress on yourself because you're like, oh,
the nicer they are and more understanding they are, you're just like, oh, what? Somebody yell at me. I want to feel bad about this.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, no, we would never.
Yeah, I definitely torture myself for not getting everything out when I said I would, but it's over. I lived.
Yeah, so, all done. Yeah.
So I'm just taking care of myself.
Oh, good. Yeah, so I was checking over kind of like, the basic interview questions that I had, and we've pretty much gone over everything. And I suppose a good note to end on is what's the thing that kind of keeps you going on this path, even when it does get difficult, which it certainly has been a difficult time for you in the past few years. So it was kind of like that, either that emotional thing that can keep you going, the grounding thing that might you rely on.
This is such a tough question because the first answer that pops to mind is stubbornness, sheer stubbornness.
Hey,
an artist,
take it.
Dang well gonna do it. And I just,
yep.
I'm passionate about these stories that I want to tell, and I got to tell them before I die, and that keeps me motivated because I just, those stories that helped me when I was growing up, I want to put out more art and stories that help other people explore morality and beauty and the things that they, that speak to them. So
yeah,
it's such a frou-frou answer, but that is
no.
So I have so many stories left to tell, and I feel like I spent a lot of time trying to just stabilize myself financially, that I haven't gotten to these stories yet. But that is where I'm planning to make a switch into being more narrative focused, since my Birthstone Goddesses were more aesthetically focused.
Right. So, yeah. I'm finding for myself, and I'm seeing it more and more in people, that it tends to be the case that a lot of people seem to be going back to the things from their childhood that bring them joy, that brought them joy. And I know that's true for me. It sounds like it's really, true for you as well. And that deep-rooted passion is the thing that you keep coming back to. So if you're feeling stuck, I feel you're getting tired of what you're doing, you feel like you have to do these things because that's what people want, but you don't really want it, like go back, like I'd say dig back 5-year-old you, 2-3-year-old you, what did you like, what did you find interesting back then, what did you enjoy, all those kind of things. For you is the fairy tales, and it sounds like moving forward, that you moving to that path and that telling the stories that really resonate with you is going to be such like an important part of your career moving forward.
Oh yes. And to add to that, I also feel like I've turned in my portfolio to a lot of the dream companies, and I just have stuff that doesn't quite fit with them. So another drive for me is to be like, well, okay, if my stuff isn't quite what people want right now, then well, I'm going to just put it out there myself. And that's why I turned to Patreon and to doing these kinds of things.
And also, I feel sometimes the studio or the company kind of ideal, I see a lot of burnout from that too. Like I see a lot of people driving, and pushing themselves to get there, to have, okay, wow, I did it. I did the thing. I'm working for this company now that I've been wanting to for 5-10 years. And then they do that for another, it doesn't even take that long. In my experience, a couple of years later, they're kind of like, so I'm coming out with my new IP and I'm not taking commissions anymore. I just keep saying that. So it really feels like, hey, just kind of cut to the chase and really dig down and really think about what it is that you want to tell and what do you want to bring into the world. Not to say that fan art and doing stuff for companies can't be both lucrative and fulfilling in its own way, but I just see a lot more people maybe not being like as a financial like powerhouse as they may want to be, but the joy emanating from them and the passion I see them doing for their work, like, to me, that matters more. It's why we're here. It's why we're, doing this at all.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
So, yeah.
I think one of the major things you can learn from working from doing studio work or having is to, like, pushing your skills. I think that part is really great from it.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of people who are using that to build themselves up and then to take on their personal projects. So
yeah. And it's a good clout builder too. Sorry, what was that?
I was going to say, that's why I said earlier that I'm kind of doing things backwards, because I started with my own sort of IP and I'm moving into doing personal stories, but also I found that for some of the geekery that I like D&D and Exalted, that's tabletop stuff that I love, but now there's a way to monetize it with DM's Guild and Storytellers Guild. I'm like double dipping now. What a time to be alive.
Right? Exactly. It's interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
People want to say how they would be in a certain time period in history. I'm like, you're living in history right now. Like, deal with it. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and that is something I wanted to talk about real fast too, that for my husband and myself, it's been a really tough year because we are an interracial marriage. And I think a lot of the stress and turmoil in the world right now, one thing that helped us deal with it, because we couldn't go out to any protests, and that's difficult because we both really are passionate about making sure people are heard and fighting for equal justice. So what really helped me out was realizing that I can do something with my art to help. Like, I did a Black Lives Matter charity painting portraits for people and was able to raise $400 for charity. So
that's awesome.
And that was great because I had really never done anything like that before. And it proved to me that, yes, art is powerful. Art can help. So if you're feeling like you want to do something, I do encourage people to get into that art activism right now if they can, and if it's something they really believe in. So that's one thing.
And do what you can, like, everybody has different physical limitations, mental limitations right now. If you can't get out and protest, then find some other way to help. You can sign petitions, you can write to and call to your Congress, you can, there's so many other things you can do, and we need everyone. We need someone, everyone can't do everything. The people out protesting, they're so tired from protesting, they probably don't have the energy to, do a lot of extra stuff. That's the main thing they're doing. So people need to help out wherever they can, and it does actually really help. We got to remember that too.
Yes.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right. And that reminds me of a quote that I saw that was talking about how there are many lanes for helping right now, and you don't have to occupy all of them. Just do what you can.
Yeah. So, and pace yourself too, because like I said, if this means a lot to you, this is something you want to do, and you want to pick a thing that's sustainable. You don't want it to be a fad. You don't want to just say, hey, I did this for a day. I posted a post on Instagram and now I'm done and I'm moving on to the next thing. Incorporate it into the fabric of your being and make it into like a weekly or monthly kind of schedule thing that you do to make sure you're really putting the effort in a more long-term sustainable way.
Agree. I definitely want to do, now that I know that it's possible, I definitely want to find more ways to do more regular fundraising, because I really feel like that made a difference out in the world. And that's something I definitely want to do more often.
I love to see it.
Too.
All right. Well, oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Right now I'm playing around with the art thing in October, but I will be back to things soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So we are at the end of the episode already. It kind of flew by. But if we want to remind everyone kind of where they can find you online.
Again, you can find most of my art sites linked from angelasasser.com. You can pick your poison there for what art style of mine you'd like to explore. And I also have a blog at patreon.com/Angela Sasser, where you can pitch in for extra perks and whatnot.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. I like I said, the offer is on the table for coming back, and I definitely want to hear more about either your next Kickstarter that you're coming out with, or just kind of, or if you get that assistant that you were talking about. I'd love to hear how that whole thing goes for you. So.
Yes, once I have leveled up, I will.
I know.
And talk about that, because it's always good to hear, or it's interesting to me to hear how people are evolving along the way.
I think it's important. Yeah, definitely. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next week here on Colourisma. Have a good one. Bye.